Hey there, welcome to another Showgirl story time. Today I'm going to define some of the terms that were used in my friend Anna's episode coming out this week. So she brought up a few things that some dancers know, maybe some non-dancers, non-performers know, and some of it's strictly Jubilee. So the first one would be Raked Stage. And if you are not aware of the history of theater, they're very, historical theaters often have raked stages. So the Bolshoi stage, for example, and even the classrooms were all raked. And what that means is that it's not flat like our normal ground. It's actually tipped up. And the reason that is because so the audience can see the people that were upstage. That's why there's upstage and downstage. So this is the audience over here, and this is the backdrop. So it was raked, and some stages were more raked than others, but generally it was a historical tradition to have raked stages. So like the Bolshoi stage, for example, doesn't really need to be raked, but they keep it that way. Probably it's financially a bigger pain in the butt to try to like flatten it again, because they have the big balconies on the sides, but all of the audience on the lower levels is all flat. So those people all, they can see that dancer in the back standing at the very backstage, or sorry, upstage of the other dancers in the foreground. So that's what a rake stage is. And Tip-a-Thon. The Tip-a-Thon was a special little performance that the boys did for the dressers and the rest of the dancers and singers in the show. Basically, it was boys dressing up as girls, kind of like a drag show, and they called it a Tip-a-Thon because that's what they called the showgirl walk. They called it tipping, and you would be on your tiptoes and you would be walking gracefully. So it was all comedy. It was just for fun, and they would do it in the main wardrobe area. So it was a very small area to try to be doing a show, but they did it once a year, and it was so much fun to watch all of these guys do choreography and get all dressed up in drag, and it was amazing and fun. Anna also talked a bit about quick change. It's not the magic quick change, it's actually a real quick change that takes place where a dancer or a performer has one costume change for whatever number or scene, comes off, and within, I would say a quick change would be anywhere from 2 to 3 minutes, goes back on stage. So there were actual dressing rooms, tiny dressing rooms, basically like closets on both sides of the stage for these particular quick changes. And not every dancer in the show had quick changes, but they were very specific scenes. And I believe the original opening in Jubilee had more quick changes for like the bluebells and stuff. But a quick change is basically when you change from one costume to another, and you can't go all the way back down to your dressing room to do it. You have to do it in like basically the side of the stage so that you can get there. Our dressing rooms were in the basement, 3 stories down. So that would take too much time to go across the length of the backstage, which was as big as the stage, so half a length of a football field. Go down 3 flights of stairs and then to your dressing room. Put your costume back on, or costume, change, shoes if you have to, and then come back upstairs. There wasn't enough time for that sometimes, so they did quick changes in the quick change dressing rooms. And if you are interested more about a change, I do talk about a quick change in a Showgirl story time that I did for Frida Ronfin's episode. And it's called Showgirl Story Time, Defining Cues, Golden Rainbow, and something like that. Just look for cues. But I go through an entire quick change that a short nude had to make, what the dresser was doing and what the dancer was doing, just for one change. So that's quick change. And then the last thing that Anna talked about was the bevel. And it's interesting that this is the first time in my entire series of podcast interviews that it's come up as fully as it did, Anna was obsessed with a bevel. But you had to perfect your bevel. My first bevel was extremely balletic and completely wrong. And I can't believe someone didn't tell me. I actually had to figure it out for myself that I was doing this wrong. And the only way I did that was by watching everyone else. And so here's a picture of me, very new bluebell. You can see that my knee is not aligned with my foot. So the bevel is the position that the showgirl takes where her leg comes in front of her. It's supposed to mimic the shape of a champagne flute, with everything pulled up, and then the way the hips, it just makes the body look sensational, really. And that was the pose that we took, with our hands on our hips, anytime we were just standing there. And so the bevel is what the foot was doing in the pose. And some dancers, like Anna, would point their foot and break their shoes, because that was a style. But I learned and I was taught that you break it at your metatarsal and you force your arch to bend instead of point. So it is part of a point, but it's on demi-point. So there were differences even in our bevels. There are so many differences and so much variety, but that was the bevel. So here is a photo of me and Anna in our best bevels, and you can see the difference between her bevel and my bevel, but it was still well and good because we were making that shape with our bodies, because everything was pulled up and tight and lovely. Thank you for joining me for this little bit of Showgirl story time and defining some of the things that we talk about in my Showgirls Life podcast. If you haven't heard the podcast yet, please go check it out. You can go to showgirls.life/podcast and see all of the episodes listed. And you can also find it on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So until next time, bye.